Welcome everyone to the game between Magnus Carlsen and Arjun Erigaisi. Their classical game has just ended in a draw. It's time for the Armageddon here. And Arjun here looking sharp after a very long and complex battle that they had with each other in the classical game. It's not going to be easy to adjust to this new time format. Magnus arrives a bit late. He's already won the tournament. D4 for Arjun. So right now it's something to play for the pride for both these players. Knight f6, c4, g6. Magnus goes for the King's Indian. I wonder when was the last time he played the King's Indian. He doesn't play that often. Bishop e2 by Arjun. Knight comes out to d7. And bishop e3 played. Magnus pushes his pawn into the center of the board. The pawn pushes forward. Knight comes out to attack the e4 pawn. And you can go f3 here, which is a normal move. You can also go queen c2. It's also possible to play here. And Magnus opens a bottle of water. Arjun trying to wrap his brain around what he wants to do. He goes queen to c2. And Magnus pushes his pawn to a5. To stop the move b4, knight comes out to f3, and the most common setup is to put the knight on d2 and then f3, g4. You could long castle as well, you could short castle, but Magnus tries to throw a spanner in the works with knight g4 attacking the bishop, and now the bishop generally goes back. Or you could even go back to d2. That's also possible. He goes back to h4, and Magnus now thinking here. He goes just cleans the board. Maybe h5 with the idea of g5 is possible, but he goes directly g5 and now f5. Very interesting move, because if you take here, I'll generally go castle or knight h6 and try to win this pawn. So Arjun goes knight d2, attacking the knight on g4. Magnus pushes forward. He takes. Bishop takes. Is the bishop trapped here? No. f3. Bishop comes back to d7. Bishop f2 played. And now somehow you can feel it that white setup is very harmonious, has center control, wants to slowly push the position. Black goes g4. And so it's not so easy here. White long castles in the position. The rook goes to g8. And the king comes up to b2. He takes on f3. And now knight takes f3. And the bishop comes out to f6. Now this is very interesting. Arjun, the pawn is attacked. He defends. Magnus comes to g4. So one thing is the king on b2 is not super safe. But king on e8 is also not safe. a3 played. He wants to play b4. That's interesting. And Magnus's last move looked at the a4 square. So if b4 takes, he can go knight a4 check. The knight jumps to b5. I like this move. The position is so sharp. So exciting, so interesting. By the way, knight e4, queen e4, bishop f5 and e4. You have to be careful about that. I believe b4 is a beautiful move here. But then you have to be afraid here. King b3 is fine. Arjun goes rook d e1. I think he's just a bit afraid of this sack on e4. So he defends it with rook e1. And Magnus is trying to now double down the g file because g2 pawn is a bit weak. 4 minutes 44 seconds for Magnus, 6 minutes 20 seconds for Arjun. What is Arjun going to do next is the big question here. Brings his knight back to d2. And king f7 played. Well, I think it's time to break now with g3. That seems like a good plan. Yes, he pushes his pawn to g3. And Magnus starts to think a bit. Well, he goes bishop h5. And now if you take on f4, I take back, it opens up my bishop, but I could always block with bishop d4. And Arjun taking his time here. I think it's the very crucial moment in the game. I believe he's also thinking about b4 at some point. It's just that your king becomes so open, you don't want to do it. He takes the pawn on f4. And if you take back, there's a check to the king, but the bishop will come and block it. So takes, bishop d4 played by Arjun. Slowly and steadily, it feels like the black king is getting weaker with e5 being threatened right into the heart of the position. Magnus is definitely feeling a bit stressed out. He goes queen h3. Maybe not the best move. And now bishop takes f6 is possible. Yes, there is a check here on d3. But you just go king a1 or king b1. And knight e1 doesn't work because rook g7 is hanging. So you have to play king f6. But then queen c3 and you lose the rook here. Okay, you can block this, but you lose the queen. So that's all very complicated. Magnus here, after bishop f6, has a decision to make. Rook g1 or take here. It's a very super complex position. Bishop f6, he wants to take. Like if you take, maybe the best option is queen c3 check, take, and just go into this endgame. But he first takes on g1, rook g1 played. And the problem is, look at Magnus's expression. He doesn't like his position because after king takes f6, there is knight c7 attacking the rook. And then knight e6 or knight b5 attacking d6. If e5 is played here, then queen takes h7 is also a big threat. But actually, it's not the best move. King f6 played by Magnus. And e5 by Arjun. The thing is, after d5, queen h7, there is bishop g4 blocking the g file. And if you take here, I come queen e3 attacking here. And although it seems white is breaking through, it's actually equal position. So Magnus must take back with the pawn here. It's a very important moment. And he's thinking here, he has 3 minutes on the clock. But it's so difficult to kind of imagine that a position like this with the rook entering here, queen check, threatened, c7 hanging would be any good. He takes with the king. That's a terrible move because now Arjun is going to just take here on h7. He chops off the pawn and it's all over because this king is just so weak. I have queen g7 check threatened. I mean, how do you even stop that check? There's just no way. So queen g7. King cannot go here. Here. Has to go here. Goes bishop g4. And I think it's mate in 2 now. Can Arjun find it? Queen g7 check. King f5. Knight d4 is a mate. He plays queen g7 and Magnus does allow the checkmate on the board with a smile on his face, resigns there. Well, Arjun wins this game, a beautiful checkmate, and Magnus wins the tournament and he congratulates his opponent there, Arjun, which is very, very nice. What a battle this has been with Magnus and Arjun. Arjun scores another very nice win over the greatest player out there.